Good day, learners. You are welcome to another study session. Now we are in study session 11, Entrepreneurship and Management of Human Resources. In study session 10, we discussed at length about different aspects of marketing. We defined marketing, talked about marketing concepts, holistic marketing. We looked at market segmentation, target positioning, and so many other areas, so that we know how important the marketing function is to the entrepreneur and the need to be able to make use of effective marketing, not only to capture the market, but to sustain and develop the firm's activities within the industry. Now let's come back home in this study session 11, talking about the management of human resources. We expect that after this session is completed, you should be able, as a learner, to explain the importance of human resource management in entrepreneurship. You should also be able to discuss the processes involved in recruitment and selection of workers. We also expect that you should be able to state the meaning and significance of employees training, appraisal, as well as motivation. You should be able to understand the importance of recognizing employees' needs as well as employees' expectations. Let's start with the first aspect, the first section. That's the role of human resource management in entrepreneurship. The human resource is the most important resource that must be effectively managed for any enterprise to be viable. It is the resource that coordinates and uses other resources. Talk of money, property, equipment, or what have you. In fact, the entrepreneur himself as a human resource must first manage himself and then other people who work with him. In the early stage of the existence of an enterprise, few people are usually employed, but as the business expands, there is a need to employ more others. But whether you are talking of few people or large number of people, there are still management issues involved. And if not properly handled, since it is this human resource that will help with production, it will help with marketing, that will help with every other thing, the finance and other things. If not properly managed, then it will also lead to the failure of the business. Now, how do we get appropriate personnel into the business? That leads us to the issue of staff recruitment and selection. The recruitment process is a very crucial one, and a systematic approach to recruitment must be followed. Recruitment basically involves attraction of a pool of candidates that an organization will consider and determine whether they are suitable for employment or not. And what we do there includes manpower planning. We have the issue of job analysis, job evaluation, and so on and so forth. Manpower planning, we can define that as the means by which an enterprise plans its future employee needs. And that will involve determining the number and quality of employees that will be required in the future. There is the need to update the personnel plan of the enterprise from time to time at various intervals as a result of changes in technology, government intervention, new organizational goals that have been set, changing needs of the society, and so on and so forth. And when we talk about human resource planning, which is also manpower planning, there are time scale normally attached to the exercise. Because planning by its very nature involves the anticipation of future events. And the further into the future we project, the less certain our plan is. So we can divide personnel planning or manpower planning, or you call it human resource planning, into short-term and long-term plans. Some authors also include medium-term plans to denote the period beyond the immediate future, but not too far into the future. As we move from short-term to medium-term to long-term, the complexity involved in planning increases. There are some basic things we need to get ready before we can succeed in all these planning activities. Now, job analysis is one of the important issues we need to discuss. And job analysis can be divided into three parts: job description, job specification, and personnel specification. Now, job description has to do with explanation of what is involved in each job position. That is the details of what an incumbent, an occupier of a position, should do while occupying that job position, or what is expected to do if he occupies the position. That is what the job entails. Now, job specification and personnel specification go together. If you say job specification, you are saying what are the skills needed to be able to perform this job. And that also translates to the personnel specification. That is, the person who is going to perform this job, what qualifications in terms of skills, education, experience do we expect this person to possess. For each job position, all these things should have been properly identified and stated. That's what we call job analysis. Then another important issue is the issue of job evaluation. Job evaluation is concerned with comparing one job with another and finding suitable grade or salary for each job. You look at the job, look at the complexity of the job, the demand of the job, and then attach monetary values to each job, so that is what will be paid to the person occupying the position or performing that job. That is a job evaluation. So in job evaluation, it is the job itself that you assess, not the person occupying the position. Because if you look at the person occupying the position presently, then that means that if the person occupying the position now finds it difficult or complex, you now maybe attach a higher salary to it. Then what happens when another person occupies the position and he feels that it's simple, it's not so complex, you now reduce the salary. So it is job itself that we evaluate in job evaluation and not the personnel. There's another stage where the personnel itself is assessed. Now let's look at the recruitment. We go about attracting a pool of candidates. An organization may employ internal advertising methods or external advertising. Internal advertising methods include making use of staff bulletins, notice boards, then maybe sending copies of the advertisement to different sections or departments electronically using the intranet or other means. But for the external advertising, that includes both local and national press, specialist journals, that is trade journals or professional journals can also be used depending on the post you are advertising. Recruitment agencies can be used, consultants, schools, colleges and universities, NYSC offices, local shows, personal contact, labor office, and so on and so forth. So by the time you do that, you see different categories of candidates responding. That is the recruitment. After you already have a pool of candidates, then the selection process begins. Application forms have been filled. Then you start with the screening of application forms. You begin to match applicants to jobs. There will be a stage of written examination. It can be once or twice or more depending on how many candidates are needed and how many responded. You have so many candidates responding, and then you have few people you want to fill, vacancies you want to fill. That will involve several examinations. Then you move to pre-selection interviews. That's the oral aspect. In the process of doing this, selection decision will be made. And once you made your selection decision, employment contracts between those who are successful and the organization will be engaged in, and the employment letters written or issued out. As they come into the organization, there is an induction to integrate them into the family of the enterprise, meeting with existing personnel, knowing their subordinates, knowing their superiors, and the lines of authority and responsibility, and so on and so forth. Another important aspect is the training, appraisal, and motivation of the new staff and even existing staff. An enterprise will be in a position to achieve its goals and meet the challenges imposed from outside, both in terms of competition and response to changes, if it has a properly trained workforce. So training programs should be organized, in-house training programs to be organized outside for staff, and different type of training methods can be employed to make sure that the staff are qualified for the work they've been employed to do. Then the issue of appraisal. As the employee begins to work with the firm, the entrepreneur must put in place a means by which each employee will be assessed. So the exercise that is associated with that is known as appraisal. The purpose is for promotion, for pay rise, or sometimes it may be to determine the training needs of each of these employees, so that where you find them deficient, you need to send them for training to cover up such deficiencies. So the appraisal is the assessment of the employee's performance in his or her job based on the quality of the work, the completeness of the cooperativeness of the employee, degree of dependability shown, and so on and so forth. So many criteria can be identified. The last aspect under that subsection is motivation. Entrepreneurs should be concerned with the motivation of their human resources because it affects their performance. Actually, performance is the target, while motivation is one of the means of getting there. The reason why employees are to be motivated is because employees have some needs and expectations, and for them to be able to meet those needs and expectations, the employer must also do certain things to assist or to push the employees to work towards certain goals and targets, so that at the end of the day, while meeting the goals, they also are getting their needs and expectations met by the organization. So what do we have to say about employees' needs? There are different theories that are associated with this. A very popular one is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, which gives explanation to human motivation. And the model typically identifies 5 levels of needs: physical needs, safety needs, personal needs, esteem needs, as well as self-actualization needs. The model also proclaims that higher needs are not activated until more basic needs are satisfied. That is, before you start talking of being interested in esteem, self-actualization, the person must have satisfied physical needs, safety needs, and the social needs, or what you call interpersonal needs. We also mentioned that employees have expectations. So we have what you call expectancy theory. And according to the expectancy theory, there are 3 basic questions that most individuals inevitably raise about their work situations. What is in that job for me? How important to me are the available rewards or personal consequences of working at this job for this enterprise? If I try harder, will it make a difference in my performance? Can I influence my level of performance through my level of effort? These are questions that are being asked. Am I rewarded for what I produce if I increase my level of performance? The entrepreneur must consider these expectations of the employees and attempt as much as possible to meet their needs. Thank you for listening. See you in the next session.